Hello, everyone. We're just waiting for everybody to join us. And as you're joining, welcome everyone. And we have our beautiful guest, Christina, here. Hi, Christina. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good.
Good. Thanks for being here with us. I see that a lot of women who are joining this webinar are actually our claimed students, claimed women. So hello, everyone. So I'd love for you to do, while everybody's joining us, in the chat box on Zoom, if you can just write where are you calling from and whether you are a client of the claim program or not, because this is for both. This is just open, and Christina and I are going to talk today about the biggest dating mistakes and all the mistakes that we've made and how they've sabotaged us in our dating life. Yeah, I see. Welcome, Alex, Anna, Beth, Carol, Gloria, Courtney. Welcome. Okay, so I see in the chat box, Thea, welcome. Violetta, hi, Violetta. Yeah, she's in Melbourne, New York City. Anna, welcome. Lena, Toronto, Canada. Yeah. Claim Queen from Arizona, Zoom user. I wonder who that is. Rochelle and Tony from New York. Okay, yeah, Rochelle, hi. Denver, Alex. Hope to be one day. Yeah, Beth. Awesome. Brooklyn, Arizona, San Francisco, Jersey City. Amazing. Welcome, Gloria. Okay, cool. Well, I think we should begin, and I think maybe more women will join us as we go. But I'd like to start. Well, obviously, all of you know me because that's why you're here. But not all of you know Christina. So this is actually super exciting that we have Christina here with us. And by the way, here's how this is going to work. In the chat box, you guys can chat and comment on stuff. That's totally fine. But if during this whole session you have a question, because what we're going to do is I'm going to present you Christina. She's going to talk a little bit about herself, and then we're going to talk about the 5 biggest dating mistakes that we have made, I've made, Christina has made, and probably all of you are making right now. And then we're going to talk about what to do instead. This Q&A was really inspired by Christina's post in our claimed client Facebook group, where she said, hey, what were the dating mistakes you've been doing before claim program that were sabotaging you in your dating life? And there were a bunch of comments. There was a really fun discussion. So I said, this is really cool, because all the women who are in the program are following me, are dating, are single, successful, and they have issues with men. So I invited Christina, and she gracefully accepted this. So I'm super excited. And then we're going to go, after we do a bit of a discussion or presentation, we're going to go into questions so that you can ask your questions to either Christina. Obviously, she's the girl on the front lines of dating, while I'm like sitting here and married to my CMM. But I have been a woman who's been dating and stuff. So we can just chat about this, whether Christina wants to answer it or me, and we're going to add stuff so we can help you really get the most out of it. And so if you have a question, please put that in the Q&A box. So down below where Zoom, you can see like chat box and stuff. So in the chat, we just comment. But if you actually have a question while we're talking, we're going to get to it after we do this presentation. So you can put it in the Q&A box, okay? That's how we'll know to answer them one-on-one, because things can get lost in the chat. And the Q&A box is in the lower right corner of Zoom, controls and things. So I hope this is clear. And if not, we have amazing claim team support here who can support you. All right. Beautiful, Christina. Please introduce yourself, why you're here, and just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here and what we're going to talk about today, and what, I guess, inspired that post in the Facebook group.
Okay. So I'm Christina Lane. I joined claimed late last spring, early summer. And I have been, I went all the way through the program. Probably I've done the modules twice. I was married for 17 years, and I got divorced, and I had 3 older kids, and I started dating, and it just went so badly. And I'm not, honestly, not to sound arrogant, I'm not used to being really bad at things, but my observation of me with like the cell phone and these dating apps and meeting men in public, and especially like add in COVID And I just felt like it was going really bad. It was. And I didn't. And so I would do all the things that, like, some of the things we're going to talk about tonight are things that I was told to do. I got like on Instagram and I followed a bunch of people, and I just tried to like collect knowledge and fix myself was like my goal. Even when I joined Claimed, I just believed I was inherently kind of broken, doing something wrong. And I would pay you guys and claim the program when, I would learn new things and get better at it. And I think that honestly, all of the things we're going to talk about tonight, like in retrospect, because I feel like I'm in a really good place in dating right now, which is honestly, I was married a long time. That's really what I wanted. I wanted, obviously, I really want a partner eventually. But what I wanted right now for myself was just to feel really safe and good in dating. I wanted it to be fun. And I wanted to like look forward to dates, not feel like terrified of dates. And like every time I was looking at men, swiping on them, like something bad was going to happen to me. And I totally got that. And I totally got this like really fun feeling about dating. And I got like the tools to use when it's not so fun. And so yeah, my post was more like, okay, guys, looking back, what were you doing before that was like you were told to do it and it was a disaster? And so that was like
awesome. So before we get into that, I guess what's really good to, so where are you now? So you told us, you've been married and divorced, and when you needed to start dating again, you felt, it was really bad. A lot of women feel dating burnout and frustration, and like, I have no idea what to do. And essentially, like, you feel like you're doing something wrong or you're broken. And you go on Instagram apps, start following these relationship gurus or dating gurus, and to collect knowledge and fix yourself, as you said. So, and that's how it was before. Like you told me before, I think that you were terrified of dating, and it wasn't a good place. So where are you now? Like, what's your dating reality now before we get into talking about what were the things you were doing wrong?
Well, it's not just dating. I would say it's men in general. Like, and like aligned with most of the women, I think that joined the Claim program, I had a lot of childhood trauma. So I was just taking the childhood kind of mirrors of men and my relationships into how I viewed men as an adult, like unconsciously. And I did a lot of therapy, and it actually maybe doubled down on some of those. I kind of over identified with all that, right? I could write you a book on what happened to me as a child and why that today shows up as this exact pattern, and how everything was essentially my fault. And so I just felt really broken. And I feel like, it's the embodiment piece and it's the more spiritual parts of the program that really quote worked for me. So it's just kind of re-identifying with myself and like my essential nature, and feeling like not only do I feel safe around men, right? My coworkers, men in my family, and men I'm dating. So I see them more as like a human now, like meeting another, like before, I think they didn't feel that way. They felt like this scary thing. And now they're humans, and some of them are more developed than others. And, some of them make you feel really good, and some men.
Some of them are more developed than others. Let's not call them assholes. But I like this approach.
They're like the bottom of the growth. And, but that is true. That is how I feel. They're not scary. Just because you're not very emotionally developed doesn't mean I need to be afraid of you. You're just not for me. And like, I don't know. I can't even tell you what all the layers of issues I was having that just kind of self-resolved from like being really committed to being vulnerable and doing the embodiment practices in the program. Because there were a lot of issues. One, I was terrified of men, was probably like and then there were just so many other things. I could say no all day at work, but for some reason saying no to a man or telling a man, oh, I don't like it like that, was really hard for me. I felt like it felt impossible. Whereas like, I owned my own business for 7 years. I had employees. I had no problem telling an employee, you're having this issue. But to tell a man I didn't like something he did felt so bad. And so like learning how to bring those emotions up into my body and what to do with them just like made it possible, like for my current goal right now for myself was just to enjoy dating and like spend some time with men, you know?
So how does it look like on a practical level? And by the way, I love that you're saying all of this, because this is why I'm doing this work. And this is why I feel like the Claim program is very different from everything else out there, because yes, we do talk about dating and the tools and everything, but honestly, it's all about the deeper inner work to see why, like, yes, you're scared of men. And I always say, getting some texting guides or sitting in a feminine way is not going to help you fix all of that, maybe in the short term, but in the long term, the stuff that's deep inside you needs to be worked on. But anyways, the subject of this Q&A call is not necessarily that. We can talk about this forever, but that's why I love this work. And when women come in, we tell them, we are going to help you attract a committed masculine man, and they're like, yes, give me all the tools and give me all the dating stuff. When they come in, they realize, well, here are actually the tools that are going to help you shift and transform yourself so that you can start experiencing a new dating reality. So what is the dating reality for you now, Christina? Give me some stories, examples, like what has changed. And because I know you've been sharing in the group some things about men, or I guess last week you said, what did you say? You had like the best dates or something?
I would say because basically, I went through a time in the program where I decided not to date at all and take like a break from that. And then when I really kind of turned it on, I find it took me a while to run a funnel. I had like a lot of inner resistance to the funnel. It wasn't exactly easy for me to date multiple men at once. Once I really got there, this is where I need to be right now, right? Because there's so many, like, the funnel is brilliant. If you're me, it just keeps you, it makes so much sense. It works with like the female brain to date a few men at a time. But so I just date a few men at a time. And when when somebody crosses my boundaries, I'm able to say, I didn't like that. Or when they become like a very clear no to me, it's usually not a no where it is like you're bad and unsafe. It's usually just a no of like, this isn't someone I want to continue with. And I let them know in a really, I feel like it's easy to let them know. I feel like I like my experiences with them are just different. And I am, like, as you would say, attracting different men. So nothing changed. I think that is like, I didn't lose weight. I didn't really change my hair. I didn't really, I really didn't change myself in any way except for inside, obviously. And then like otherwise with exactly the same dating apps in the same COVID world, I just have like a steady stream of dates. Like I can have as many dates in a week as I want. And they all have great jobs and they're nice men and they are all really different. And I have somehow magical ability, which this feels like a unicorn ability that I didn't know I could have, is like, this is amazing. I can go on a date and not worry about anything else except for, do I want to go on a second date? That feels like a superpower, because before if I swiped on your photo, I was thinking, well, do I want to marry you? Like, I'm not sure, I don't know if I would want to marry you. What would I don't know, what job do you have? Is that going to work for my job? How far away from my house do you live? And now I can just go on the date and be like, do I want to go on a second date with you? I'm not sure. Okay, sure. And I don't have to ask, I do not have to mentally decide whether this man is gonna, what if I will like living with him on the first date. So that to me feels like a superpower. And I honestly didn't think I would get there. I just thought, oh, I have quote anxious attachment or something, and I'm incapable of relaxing into the moment. And that is not true. Actually, just a few months of work that wasn't true for me.
I love what you're saying, because this is what I'm teaching. This is what it's all about. It's like, superpower, not worry about anything besides, do I want to go? Like, that's what it's all about in dating. It's, you just show up. And I love what you shared, Christina, that like, I show up on dates and I had so much fun. I laughed out loud.
Yeah.
That when you're with a man in a present moment, where it doesn't even matter, like, are we going to see each other again or not? You're not in your head thinking constantly, like checking checklists and what is he like, oh, what do you do for a job? And if he says like he's I don't know, director of the library, you're like, oh, how much money is he making? And is this going to match with me? Like, no, you're just there and you're like laughing out loud. And it's just so attractive. It's like, that's what great men, that's what they want. They want a woman who we can just sit here and have fun. And we're not going to think about where is this going and whatever. Like I had that day with my husband this week for my birthday. We were literally laughing out loud in a restaurant. Like, that's what it's all about. So I love that superpower, not worry about anything besides whether I want to say yes to go on the next date or not. Beautiful. So such an inspiration. Yeah, Thea is saying in the chat box. So let's get into it. Violetta, I see you have a question. We're going to get into questions after we talk about these 5 biggest dating mistakes. So again, all the women here, if you have any questions for Christina or me, just put them in the Q&A box. So ladies, let's do this. Let's begin. We're going to go, Cara wrote all of you an email and send it out, those 5 biggest dating mistakes. And we're going to go from like, I guess, the least charge to the most charge. So Christina, let's start with this one. Just tell him. So mistake number 1, just tell him you want something serious and that you don't want to waste your time at the beginning of dating someone you just met or starting hanging out. Christina's like, no, don't do that. So why?
Well, that is so, first of all, that is like the most common Instagram dating advice is like, go into the date and ask this man what he wants. So if he doesn't want a relationship, you get out fast, right? And like optimize yourself for relationship ready men. And that doesn't, first of all, separate from claimed or whatever else, is that how you ever made a relationship in your life, right? Like, is that a human? Does anyone want to be treated like that? Like, do you want to meet a woman and she's like, hey, unless you want to be best friends, I don't want to see you again. Right? Like, I'm looking for my very best friend. So if it's not you, I'm not going to go on a second coffee date with you. Right? Yeah. You're like, whoa, I don't know. I don't even know if I think you're funny yet, or if you made me feel good today on this date. And so I also think it's very fair to not know exactly what you want and like be able to outline it, because I think most men or women, if they're really in their body, you want a relationship with somebody that makes you feel really good. And that's really what you want. So that would really, if some people, men ask me that now, the men are like getting this advice and they ask me on the first date sometimes, what are you looking for? I guess to make sure I'm not, looking for a hookup or something. And I say, I don't know. I know how I want to feel, but I'm not, I don't have a big agenda on that. Mm-hmm. And so, but I think it is such a personal question too, for a very first time meeting somebody. It sets some kind of tone, that's almost aggressive.
Mm. So obviously I agree with that, because that's the whole point. But I'm wondering, a lot of women, what they would ask there is like, well, but how do I navigate this? Like, how do I set myself up for success? Like, knowing that he is looking for something serious and not just a hookup and not just like having sex with me. Like, how do I navigate this?
You will know. Like
I know. I'm asking you.
if you're embodied and you're
Oh,
being,
you will know. Okay,
you'll
yeah.
know, right? You will know if you're really embodied and you're really open and you're really taking this person as they are. This is a human, and they will be, they're like, their actions and the way they make you feel will line up. If you know if you're following the program, you're not like initiating tons of dates. You're not like, John, let's take me, I want to cook dinner for you tonight and come over to my house and do. You're like, they're putting in effort and energy, and that is really that's way more trustworthy than a man saying he's looking for a relationship anyways, right? Is their actions and the way they make you feel. Anybody could say on a first date, yeah, I want a relationship, when they, regardless of if they do or not. It doesn't anybody can say that. I would say 90% of profiles on the internet say looking for a relationship, right? And I think that it is how someone makes you feel, and it's their actions towards you over time. It's like building intimacy in an authentic way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shervin is actually saying that, many men say that because they know that that's what women want to hear, right? Like, are you looking for something serious? Hell yeah, I'm looking for something serious. I'm just not sure if it's going to be with you, parenthesis. So it's like, you're going to, and I think for women, when you ask this question and the man says yes, what you're doing is you're also self-sabotaging yourself, because you are already, even haven't met the guy, right? Because it's on the apps. You're already thinking that this guy is relationship material because he says he wants to be in a relationship. So, and then you go on, and then every single thing that he does, you're kind of already ahead of yourself. Like, this guy is relationship material, so this is where this is going, where this is like so premature. And I think what you said is extremely important here, because I've been with men who told me right from the beginning, I don't want a relationship. Well, I didn't listen, but like, people can say whatever they want. That's why claimed rule number, I don't even know which one, is don't trust words, trust actions. So just like you said, Christina, you will know when he is interested in you long term by what he's doing, by how he's behaving, by how it makes you feel. A man who is consistent there and available, he will make sure that that's going to feel good in your body. So the advice here from Christina and me is to not do that. Don't tell him you want something serious. Like, what to say, Christina, when he says, what are you looking for? Or what do you say?
I say the truth. It's very hard for me to lie. So I don't know if that's true for a lot of women in the group. It's just hard. So I just say the truth. I say, which is my truth right now, is honestly, I've had kids, I've been married. I would love to meet somebody great, and have a great relationship. I don't know exactly what that looks like right now, but I know how I want to feel. And that's it. And if there is any like other pushing or anything at all, I've just said, I'm dating and having fun and experiencing people. And, I just leave it open. I just kind of, some of that stuff that men like read on the internet, I know they do it. And I feel like a lot of compassion because I read it all too and tried it. But like, some of it I try to push off a little bit, because like, my experiences with dating are that like, I can get a much better feel for someone if we don't jump into really intimate stuff right away. Right. I try to just kind of push some of that to the side and just try to, is this person someone I want to eat dinner with? Like, is that right? Like, why don't we start there? Like,
yeah.
Like,
yeah. So true. And it like you said, it relates to all the people, right? Like girlfriends, and is this something like, it's step by step. That's how a relationship develops, right?
Yeah.
Like there's stages to this. You're just getting to know someone, you know, without having a checklist and being like, are you, same thing with girlfriends. I don't come with, you know, for a coffee with women, be like, are you into yoga? Do you know anything about embodiment? Like,
No.
check, check, check. Great. You're going to be
Yeah.
my best girlfriend. Yeah. None of that, right? So yeah. All right. Awesome. Let's move on. Number two, well, kind of number four, another mistake. Why wait for a man to text you? Just text him. Why is that wrong advice, Christina?
You know, this is one where you might have to talk a little bit more about why it doesn't work, but it just doesn't work. It's not the right thing to do. You can, you know, if, look, maybe that is what you want, but if you are, but my experience was that being the person who's there, you know, there's a balance, right? There's like a little dynamic. Somebody's the boss. And so the second you decide that you're going to shift into this role where you are the person initiating all the dates and planning them and texting mostly first, and he hasn't texted you for 3 or 4 days, and you are you know, you're constantly kind of like putting back in there, you're taking the leadership role, right? You've accepted it. And a lot of us work in fields where we've had employees. And so if you're in that situation, you know what that feels like. And so it hasn't been a successful experience for me ever and I have done that plenty of times. It is very easy for me, right? I'm quick with my phone. I can get a text out in 27 seconds while I'm doing 20 other things. And I like to do a lot of things at once. So it is no problem for me to just like punch out a whole bunch of texts to these guys without thinking about it, but doesn't give them any space to, initiate, lead. You never actually get to see how interested they are. You don't create any of like the polarity that you learn about and claimed, if you do that. So I think that, no, does it really matter? Like, should it, you know, at outside of this, you're getting into something that's like very undercurrent of dating when you're talking about this. But it's also like, how do you like it? Is that what you want? Is that what you want at the end? Do you want to be the person that plans all the vacations, plans all the dates? If you have kids with this person, you know, wakes up with them all by yourself every single night, books every single school appointment for them. Like, is that what you want? If that is what you want, then maybe you should text first and be the mover of the whole thing. But if that isn't what you want, if you want something that's more nurturing and you want to feel really safe and you want to feel really chosen, then don't do that. Don't go into it that way. So I think is why it doesn't work for me, but I feel like you also have some like very claimed kind of core this too.
Yeah, well, it goes into, and maybe Lena, this is going to answer your question, because she asked about, you know, should men always be the ones initiating and things, you know. We always, so I think about it kind of from a bird's view perspective. That's why I talk a lot about that feminine masculine polarity. And if some of you are here, like obviously, if you're a client of the Claim program, we talk about it right. Like once you begin the program, this is the first thing we talk about, right? Like that polarity in depth and in detail, so that you can understand why that feminine masculine polarity is important. How does it show up in dating? Why you need to lean back and let the man lead, let the man pursue and court you. And play that game with him, because honestly, this is what we're doing is like, we're like dancing, we're doing mating dance here. And yeah, I think in the modules I even show, do I show in the modules, do you remember, Christina? Or maybe it's later when we talk about men, that the bird that's doing like the mating dance, do you remember that? Maybe not, maybe I didn't show it, but anyways, if you look in nature, right, like I got fascinated because I read a lot of stuff about evolutionary psychology. So this, probably a lot of women heard this feminine masculine polarity, you know, feminine masculine, they're all labels, right? For me, it always felt true in my experience, just like for you, Christina, that as a woman, I want to be courted and I want to be pursued. Like, it feels freaking good when a man is like, I'm taking you out for dinner. Be ready at 8. And you don't know where we're going, right? You're like, ooh, spicy. I love this. Woo-hoo! I just need to get ready, put on my necklace, my pretty dress. Like, we still do this with my husband. Like, he books the dates, and then it's so funny. We jump in the car, and I'm like, I know where we're going. He's like, no, you don't. And he's like, okay, well, show me the directions. And I actually knew where we're going for my birthday. And I was like, well, you turn left here. And he just keeps driving straight. And I'm like, ooh, he was going to the place that I knew, but he just took a different turn to kind of make me confused. Yeah, it's so cute. But anyway, so we are mammals, and this whole feminine masculine polarity, it's not just some concepts. Like, I heard them as concepts, right? That they felt true in my experience in dating with men, that I want to be safe and taken, right, and conquered as a woman, and to say yes to a man and be claimed by a man. But I really wanted to dig deeper and understand why. Like, why does this work? Why does it work this way? And what's the science behind it, or whatever? And that led me to actually like biology and evolutionary psychology, and sexual selection. And I talk about this in the program, where we are literally designed, it's evolutionary psychology, where men are just programmed to court and pursue and impregnate as many women as possible, essentially. While women, it's all about actually parental investment. While women were wired to actually lean back and be pursued and conquered. All we have to do when we go to a bar, and nobody teaches about that. It's just human behavior, right? You go to a bar, you look pretty, and you just sit down, and then you wait, right? You're just waiting, and they come, and they come. It's like gravity, right? It's like, this is always going to be the case if you just allow it to happen, right? So that's why, Christine, and because women today, and it's amazing, right? Like, we are ambitious and driven. We have so many opportunities. What we mistakenly do, we take that go, 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 masculine approach that we employ in our careers. We take it to dating, and we're like, where are we going? Send me everything, like, where are we go? Where is this going? What are the dates? Let me control everything, right? So I think that the thing that women do mistakenly in dating is they want to control, but that sense of control is what we actually need to work with. That's why in the program, and as you said, Christina, that's why we do this embodiment work and excavate. Well, what's under your attachment to control in dating, and to know where this is going? That's why so many women can't let that go, and they self-sabotage themselves. So, as Christina said, do not text him. Well, most of the time, like,
Yeah.
allow for space for a man to pursue and court you. And that's why you have your dating partner. You're dating 3 men at a time, so you're not so fixated on one guy, why he's not calling you. So I guess, Christina, the question for you is, and I get this question also a lot, and I'm curious, how do you do it? Is there no texting on your side at all? Like, do you completely lean back 100%, or do you, like, how do you interact in that dynamic where you still want a man to lead, but you're also kind of engaged and present and giving him signals, I guess, that you're interested?
Yeah. Well, I would say one is that then I perceive in that dance, I perceive that then I would have a role. So if you are initiating, right, then I am a little bit more, and it's not fake, it's natural. If I'm not the one initiating and you're mostly initiating, I think, not all the
Mm-hmm.
time. I don't like go for weeks and I've never initiated a text with a man and he's like confused. And can I just say, like, please, like, don't listen to us and make anything weird. Be yourself. Don't be just like a religious, like, these people are confused now because you don't respond, it's awkward. I think it, for me, and I don't worry so much about the percentage of time I do or don't text first, or I am like very warm and super excited to hear from them. And I see that sort of as I perceive that as my part of the dance, is sort of that, like, if you do walk up to me in the bar and initiate a talk with me, I'm not like, oh, hey, and look at my phone. So I feel like I am, because they're initiating more and they're planning these dates, I actually am putting way more effort into like, I might do a flow before a date now, and I'll like, or we hop on a call. I am just like bringing a lot more relaxed and like available energy, I think. And so I think that's something to keep in mind. Maybe if when you're thinking about,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're not the initiator, but then like, okay, if you're thinking about evolutionary psychology, then what is your role? Like, what does it feel like when, and also then if you just have like a lot of empathy and respect for men and that they're humans, and they're kind of like blindly like reaching out to you and they're nervous and like they really like you and they're really like, man, if a guy has like texted you first like days in a row and he's asked you on this date and he's planned it and he doesn't know if you're going to like the restaurant, like if you are thinking of him as a human and you have a lot of empathy for him, you're naturally just going to be really warm and kind and like excited to hear from him. And that seems to be enough. Every once in a while, I will have a situation where a guy clearly has dated women who were like really comfortable running it all the time. Like he dated basically both me. So, so he's a little confused. And then in those moments, it does take me a minute to like, we have to switch over, right? Like we have to like, he'll be like, what do you want to do for the date? And I have to like, I think there is some like, most of it comes naturally. You lean back, you're doing your flow, so you're just really excited and that's enough for them. But I think sometimes there does come a little bit of like, okay, this is really how I like it. And so I'm going to keep kind of like, I think just like when I said with number one, I'm going to keep kind of like, flip it around a little. Like I'm going to
Right.
so that you kind of get what I like and have lots of chances. Cause I'm sorry that you've also been internet dating for 3 years and you're confused too. So I think none of this is like, this is not a new list of rules, right? To replace this like bad list. There's no legalistic, you should never ever text first. You should never ever, but it's just like, does it feel like you're the boss of it? That's how I take it. Or does it feel like you're really leaning back and receiving? And I think if like separately from dating, you're working on receiving, then you kind of know what it feels like. And you're like, oh, I can receive from this man. This feels good. And then you don't have to worry about, the legalism kind of it. It get that
Yeah.
gets less and less.
Right. So it becomes this natural thing. So for everyone, I'm seeing Shervin and Zoom user. I don't know what's your name from Arizona. Oh, Marbella. Just post them in the Q&A chat, please, so we can go over that later. So what you were saying, Christina, is you know what? I had this metaphor, like this image. Well, first of all, thank you that's what we're doing in the program. And I think so many women I talk to who've been through this journey, they say, oh my God, the male experience, right? So many women do not even think about, we're never exposed to just what's on the other side. We never think about that because we don't need to, right? Like I'm just sitting here and trying to date and thinking I'm broken. But I had this realization, so I'm so passionate. Well, I've studied men under a microscope for many years. I've asked men so many times the question. I had a whole podcast about where I was interviewing men about women in relationships and developing that empathy. And oh my God, when I realized what it takes for a man to be at a bar and how many balls it takes for him to walk up to you to ask you a question or for a phone number, like that takes a lot of guts and a lot of balls. And when men do it, it's like, wow, and then what do they get? Sometimes, maybe a lot of the time, sometimes they get a slap in the face. Sometimes, there's a drink on their head. Men are getting rejection after rejection from women all the time. And they're actually used to that, right? So when you get to understand that and actually go on the whole journey of, men also go through their own, rites of passages of becoming a man and what has been their experience in the past. Like what you mentioned is like a lot of men, I think, Shervin, this is partly going to answer your question, is, a lot of men today are used to women leading the dynamic. Like Shervin says, what if they want women to initiate? Well, great, but what if you don't want that? That doesn't feel good in my body. So sorry, but we also got to think about, a lot of men have grown up with women who are very domineering, who are running their dads around the house and telling them what to do, and mothering not only their son, but also their husband, right? So, and that has been generationally their story. And so, and then this boy grows up and is used to a woman basically, mothering him. And these are the women that he's attracting, not even realizing that, oh my God, I've got masculinity in me. I'm a man, and a lot of men actually go through this transformation in their 30s or 40s or whatever, to actually, no more Mr. Nice Guy. This is the book that I recommended in the program. They like have this awakening. I'm like, shit, like I got to put on some muscle and like take charge of my life. And that, like, so many men have these awakening moments. And this is where, like, I'm going to go for it. They really step into their masculinity. It's essentially the same way that we're doing with women in the clan program. When we not step in, but step out into our femininity, right? Like lean back. And so, what you said is so important. So when we talk about initiating and texting, I got an image at when you said I sit at the bar, right? So imagine you sit at a bar. So this is what dating is, right? Or like texting is, because we're talking about this mistake, just text him. So you sit at the bar and then the man comes to you. So he's initiating the text, right? So imagine the bar situation is the text. So he comes to you, he's initiated. And instead of you, like, as you said, Christina, totally not doing anything and being like this robot saying hello and then like texting on your phone, you're turning to him and saying hi. He's like, hey, whatever his dating line is. Men have this stupid pickup lines, but even in the pickup line, like when he's approaching you and telling you some pickup line, some women would recognize the pickup line and say, well, that's a shitty pickup line. I think you should go back to the table and think of something better. Like, instead of that, knowing the male journey and whatever, you're like, well, I don't know, you can think of something clever, but not turn it into a or being too passive. You're like turning around and saying, well, hello, yeah, thank you, I bought this dress somewhere. And then you're engaging in the conversation. Like you said, how can you be present in that dynamic when you're texting? Because if you're present in the texting dynamic, he will know that you're interested, and he will want more of you and more of that and more of that, because he's initiating and you're responding. So that's how it works. And yeah, every woman is different. So I always say, give him signals that you're interested. Like if you had a conversation, you're walking around and you saw, I don't know, some stupid poster or something, or you're doing something, send him a picture with a comment. You're not initiating, but you are showing up and, I guess, supporting this dynamic in this conversation without the initiation of dates and stuff. And if you do this right, what you said, Christina, in the beginning is so important. If you do this right, then you're setting yourself up for success right from the beginning. This is so important, because you then mentioned, do you want to then run a family like this? So if you do this polarity right in the beginning and you let him initiate and lead, then what you're going to have yourself is a man who is in a relationship with you, but also being married and having a family with a man who takes charge, who takes care of you, who makes you feel safe and your kids, so that you can be a mother, so you can be a woman, and you don't have to be in this dynamic where you like completely burned out and exhausted because you're mothering your kids, but you're also mothering your husband, which so many women do. So did you do that too? Are you nodding?
I was really good at that.
Oh, yeah, I know. All right. So let's move on. We have three more things to talk about. I guess we can just speed it up because we can talk about this forever. So I think we're going to talk about two more, actually, because I have this one: be easygoing, be the cool girl with no expectations. We kind of chatted about it, where you said, you got to be a little more just open and true to yourself, and really feel into treat them as humans, right? So let's talk about this one. Always be checking for red flags. Why is that? It's like, well, no.
It goes back to like what we were just saying about the texting. Like, Oh,
Mm.
you can take the claim structure and red flag it too, right? What you could do that would be not good is then you could start trying to decide, is every man a masculine man or not, by the way, like you can start red flagging them for everything. They're just humans. None of us are dating. We're trying to date humans, and they have, like, all of them have unique expressions, right? And they have different experiences, and they don't really know what we want right away. They don't really know who we are. So, like, if you can stop doing that and just drop into how you feel, I think the two things I've done, like, really successfully related to red flags are: one, I just feel more safe in my own body and I feel safe around men. So I kind of trust myself, and I feel like, if it's not somebody I should date long term, I'll still have a few great dates with them. Like, even the most undeveloped man could be a few great dates. Like, it's not going to be, I'm not going to get hurt. I'm going to have fun no matter what, even if it's just, this is what he has, a piece of with wear for 2 dates. So that has helped. And then, like, no, trusting how you keep going back to how you feel. Don't worry about it. Did you have trouble getting him to plan the date a little bit, a few times? Did you have to flip it back? Let's not jump to label him. How did you feel on the date? Did you have a great date? Is there room for this to grow? Are you growing as a person from spending time with this man? So, like, I think all the other things we talked about are kind of what create this for women, right? So, like, if you look at each date as just like an experience, if you decided how you want to date, right? I know how I want to date. So if that's not how you're coming at me, and I can't successfully shift it a little, what I've noticed too is that, like, 99% of the time, if I just drop it, right? If I just let him drift away, say no, we don't talk for a month or two, because he just couldn't, because I think he just couldn't nail it, he just couldn't initiate that level, almost always comes back. I've had a great 2 or 3 dates with a guy who, he didn't initiate the date. We didn't talk. I think this addresses a comment in the chat too. I just let it drift off. I didn't unmatch him or anything. And he came back like 5 weeks later and he said, "Hey, I should have asked you on a date and I didn't. And I went back and I looked at your profile and I've read our chat 2 times and I don't know what I was thinking. Will you go on a date with me? I will plan it."
Wow.
Yeah. And so I think also sometimes, like, if you can not look for red flags, I could have red flagged him. I could have been like, he's not an initiator. I'm going to unmatch him. Like, there's some dating advice, like, don't stay matched for more than 3 days. But instead I just let it go, because honestly, I was busy. And honestly, I don't know. And then he came back, right? And he was so interested. He was interested that whole time. He on his own got there and figured it out. So I think, like, all those things, there's, like, doing all the other things will help support you. You can't actually make your brain stop looking for red flags, I think, but you can do all these other things, like the embodiment and getting more safe around men and stuff and relaxing. And then you'll notice yourself, stop searching them down for, like, what's wrong with them.
Well, here's the thing. Why this advice is so BS is because what you focus on persists and expands.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're always checking for red flags, then that's what you're going to see, freaking red flags all the time. And of course, if you're seeing this all the time, you're like, where are all the good men? Well, nowhere, because what you're looking for is all the red flags. And, men make mistakes. Everybody does. Like, we do as well. And so if you're just focused on where are all the red flags all day, every day, looking for men on everywhere, looking for red flags, that's all you're going to see. And in your reality, and of course, if you have a belief system about men that they can't be trusted, so on and so forth, then you're just looking for evidence of why they can't be trusted, and all these red flags are supporting your reality. So instead of that, how could we shift and actually look for evidence where men are doing their best, and oh well, yeah, he didn't do that right, but he did do this right, so let me congratulate him on that, or let me make a comment, or how can I redirect this and be like, well, I really liked how you did that, and let the stuff that you didn't really like maybe slip away if it's not a non-negotiable for you, or communicate in a way that, that didn't feel good. But look for evidence. When I did this work, like what you did, that's why the world of men for me shifted and transformed. I've developed a lot of empathy for them, and I actually started looking for evidence where men show up and support and do these amazing things. That's where I live now. That's my reality. So I always say you create your own reality in general, but also you create your own reality of men. So don't go looking for red flags. Instead of that, go looking for what he's done right and tell him about it, because once you do that, then he's going to keep doing that. So awesome. All right, well, let's move on to the number one, and you're going to start talking, Christina. I'm just going to grab a pen. But number one is like our top favorite, which is, if you want him, Christina, you need to go get him. which goes along the lines of everything we're talking about. Let me just grab a pen. But please begin.
I can say whatever I want. No, yeah, I think it goes along with everything that we just talked about. Was like it again. I mean, if that's what you want, if that's the dynamic you want in your relationship, and that works for you, and that's how you want to feel with a man, then go get him. You can do it. Right. But if that hasn't worked for me, I went and got him, and I never could land the dynamic I wanted by doing that. And so I have honestly tested that one out many times. So I think I feel, it didn't work for me. I understand the thought process though, of like, oh, it doesn't matter who goes first. We're all equal. But it does matter. Like it does matter who goes first. And actually, like, if you're really honest about how you feel, if you really get in touch with your emotions, right? I had very little actual, like I didn't really have a sense of how things felt in my body. Right. And so that's getting better and better. But it's new for me. So I think that I just can tell you that it feels really good, and it feels really safe when I lean back and I let him come get it. And it doesn't feel good. I actually start feeling really anxious. And that's when I could call myself anxious attachment, which I don't think is true. I actually just think I was experiencing some relationship dynamics that caused me a lot of stress. And so I don't feel that level of anxiety when I'm not the one chasing it. Because I wasn't sure if I was the one, if I did go get it, it's mine now. I don't know. I didn't feel chosen. And so I think that's I guess that's the whole name of the program, right? Being claimed. But if you get in touch with your body and how things feel, I just don't think you'll be able to do it. I think there gets to a point in the program where you really followed it and you literally can't do it. It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter if it's logical to you or not. It doesn't feel good to take this guy who's being kind of wishy-washy and you're confused and just grab him anymore. You cannot do it. It would be repulsive to you. So I think
because you would go against your own nature.
You go against
your own feminine essence.
You physically cannot do it anymore. So I think that you don't even have to have a whole list of reasons. Just if you practice feminine embodiment, you follow the program, you wouldn't want to. It would be oh no, I don't even want it anymore. Right?
Yeah. And I think what's important also for women to understand is that when you do that act of leaning back and allowing him to come to you and get you and claim you, you're also giving him such a gift. When women learn, well, first understand, but also then learn how to lean back and just laugh out loud and be here and let him get you, you're giving him such a gift of, and like really feeding into that masculine nature that men have developed over thousands of years of conquering and pursuing and going for it, right? So that's why I always think about that, the mating dance. If you look in nature, all the males are like fighting each other for for who can be the leader here. That mask, because all they're competing for is to attract attention of the youngest and the most fertile female, right? So that's why it's biology, right? Men have a lot more testosterone, they have a lot more drive, they do not go through these cycles, they do not give birth or get pregnant or whatever, they do not have that moon space in the cave. They're always on the go. I mean, they do have their own cycles, and obviously men are human and they can't be always go because they burn out. But there's such a difference when you understand this and you allow the men to come to you, because for them it's like, and especially when they have competition. So again, when we talk about that mating dance, when you, Christina, are dating 3 men at a time, the guy knows. I mean, I advise not to necessarily talk about it. When I ask my man, I'm like, did you ever think I was dating? He's like, probably, but I didn't care. But I felt this, like there's tension there because this woman is in demand. And if this woman is in demand and if her calendar gets full, I better up my game, So it's that, like, they have this amazing thing of like, I want to pursue and I court and I want to win. Men, masculinity, and we all have masculine and feminine, right? But if you're a man in a masculine body, this is what all this polarity is about, penetration, ejaculation, nothingness. Like, that's why they watch all these sports and are glued to the screen. And like, I never understood that. If you ask, that's why most women are not into sports, because that's just not like, I want to run around with flower crowns and not everyone, but I want to feel like, give me something that I can feel into, rather than a bunch of dudes, slamming into each other and win. He wants to go for the kill. And so when you do that and you do that right, it's just magnetizing, So yeah, ladies who are here, don't go for him. Give him the opportunity to come get you, to win you, to conquer you, to give you something that you can laugh out loud about, to give you something to like let your eyes sparkle and shine. So amazing. Do you have anything to add here, Christina?
No, we can get to questions, I think.
Cool. So I'm curious, before we get to questions, and I saw something in the chat box. So I'd love to hear from all of you who are watching this. Have you done, like, is this helpful? Have you ladies done any of the stuff that we've been talking about? Like, going to get the guy, text him first. What were some other mistakes we talked about in the beginning? I forgot everything already. What was the first thing we talked about?
I mean, like overall, right? It's just like, but basically everything we talked about is just the dynamic of you are the boss of it. You're like, you are making this dating your job, right? Or you're not. And like, what does that feel like for a lot of us? There's never been any part of our life that we haven't been the CEO of. So it's new, right? I can say that for me, right? It is new to receive or lean back, like all of this. It feels so good, but it is new. It is not, it's not easy in the beginning, because there's a lot of inner work, right, that produces this. It's not a list of rules.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the women in chat box are saying, yeah, okay, cool. We've done all of that. Yeah. And yeah, just, I think so much compassion to the women who are dating, because this is not easy. And yeah, to figure this out is hard, but we have a solution for you, obviously. So that's what we do in the program. That's why I'm so passionate about it. So if you're not in the program, if you're in the program, you're all good. We're here to support you. We have an amazing community of women. The Facebook group is there. The modules are there. Know that this is a journey and a process. This doesn't change overnight. And obviously, we have our group coaching calls. And if you're a woman listening to this and be like, I want some of that, Anna Roa, teach me how to do all of that. Christina keeps talking about this feminine embodiment thing, which we're going to get to in a moment. But if you're interested, apply for your discovery call. If you go to claim.com/apply, get on a call with us and we'll see if this is a good fit for you so you can join our amazing community. So let's get to questions, Christina. So can you see the questions, Christina, in your view or not really?
I can.
Okay, because
in the sheet. I'm trying to go through them, see which ones are questions and comments, but I saw one earlier.
Oh, are you looking in the chat box?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you click on the Q&A, the menu for the Q&A should pop up, but don't worry about this. I'm just going to read them out to you. Okay, so you can just sit back and relax. Yeah. Cool. Okay, yeah. Claim team just posted a link to the discovery call. Okay, so Violetta is asking, 1 second. So Violetta is asking, what do you mean the embodiment part was the breakthrough for you? Do you mean the daily feminine flow? If yes, how long do you do the feminine flow per day? And Violetta is in the program.
Yeah, and she's like my girl, right? Because she's like, how long should I do it? And tell me, right? Like that, like my the module, right. Like module 1, I was like, today I'm gonna go buy my stuff for my altar. And then I'm gonna do how long did she say I'm supposed to do that roll around on the floor thing? I'm gonna do that. Right.
Roll around on the floor thing. This is how we're gonna call it. Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. And yeah, so I don't have a specific answer for the length, because for me, a lot of times it's short, and then a lot of times there's whole, one thing I wanted to say really quick, I think, is that, I don't want to make dating sound like, oh, it is just so easy all the time, because actually there's to date well and to date with like a lot of bring all this energy into dating that's really magnetic, you have to be pretty vulnerable. You have to insert like a lot of love and compassion. You have to have a lot of good boundaries and be able to communicate them, pretty quick. You have to be able to deliver. And I didn't like that. And now you get another chance. And so I think that, so sometimes I will flow twice a day for a lot longer because there's something that kind of surfaced. Dating is like the best therapy on earth. Like if you really like,
or the worst therapy on earth.
The worst if you're doing it wrong, but like it could. So all the bad things that can happen to you in dating, like, could be amazing because all these, it's so vulnerable. So like you're constantly putting yourself out there and you're thinking about how things made you feel and you're getting triggered. And so I think that something really cool about establishing an embodiment practice at the same time as dating is that they kind of like, it's so vulnerable to date and you need so much emotional outlet to date and keep in a flow that it like almost like you have to have it. So if you didn't have something like that going on, you might struggle to commit to feminine flow. But I think if you're actively dating, you'll start to need it. And so that's really cool, right? You're not stuck in like trying to build this embodiment practice every day. You desperately need it to date well. And so I think for me, if you're like actively dating, you're doing some longer flows and all that. You almost don't have to plan it. At some point you're like, oh my gosh, I am so in my head today and I have a date tonight I'm really excited about. I need to figure out. So, I'm going to get on the floor and get ready for this date because I don't want to go on the date like like all in my head right now. And so yeah, I think that's what I mean about the embodiment flow and the worksheets. There's like different things you can take into your flow, you know, and different
Yeah,
ways.
well, that's what. Yeah, that's what I was going to mention to Violetta since she's in the program. Violetta, I know you're new, you're about 2 weeks or so. So the program is designed in a way like it doesn't happen overnight, but it's designed with a specific goal in mind. So that's why I always say trust the process and show up, because the first 2 weeks for you, it's just to start doing your practice and to start getting out of your head and sensitizing the body, because so many women we work with, I mean, I think this included Christina as well, just live in the head and lived in the head so for so long. And that's why, even sometimes when you go to therapy, it doesn't work on the long term, because you're not truly feeling and embodying whatever is happening with you and your system. So the program is designed, the first 2 weeks is just sensitizing, but once you start work every single module, when we drop into limiting beliefs, and then when you discover yourself as a woman, then we talk about men. Every single module has an embodiment practice, a guided embodiment practice, a playlist, and a worksheet, and all of them work together, and you're going to have all the instructions that you need to drop into that and to see the results and embody that. So I would say, don't worry about this for now. For now, follow the instructions if you need to. Even if nothing is happening for you, just roll on the floor for 5 minutes a day. If you're not feeling anything after 2 weeks, I'd say roll on the floor for about 10, and then get on our coaching calls and post in the group, and we'll be able to help and support you. So that's how I would answer that. Thanks, Violetta. Thea, I saw you post a question in the chat. Please post it in the Q&A box. Okay, Lena, I think that we kind of answered this, but let's see if you have any other thoughts. Lena was asking, should the man always be the one initiating of idea going on a first date? If you're the one hinted at going on a date, does that mean you're in your masculine, you're no longer in your feminine? I think we kind of answered that. I think we talked about the polarity dynamic. Yeah.
Going on a date. You ask me. I just don't do it.
Yeah. So I think we talked about that. Lena, if you have more clarifying questions, let us know in the Q&A box. Okay, next one. Okay, did answer that. Awesome. Kim is asking, so I am in a 2-year relationship, but joined the program to regain my feminine embodiment and to change the dynamic in my relationship. What is the best way to present my new skills and evolving self within an existing relationship? This might be more of a question to me than to you, Christina, but did you want to?
Yeah, it might be, except I can say that that a lot of this, I have 3 children and I have a co-parent. My ex-husband lives 10 minutes away from me and we share them. And so I would say I have inserted a lot of my skills in the claimed program into my relationship with him as my co-parent. And a lot of my new boundaries setting skills that and so I think that actually you just focus on yourself and what feels good, and then that is what I did with him. And then when something really doesn't feel good to me, I take it into a flow, or I need to set a boundary there. And sometimes in some ways practicing with him is even easier because there's no end game, where he's my co-parent. So he's like a really good person to practice with for me. There's not a lot of like worry or fear there when I set a boundary. So I think, it's not that different from dating. I think claims can work really beautifully, because what you're trying to do, I think, is you're just trying to shift the dynamic back in your relationship, right? You're trying to like slowly, what does it feel like? What's an area that you're at like a 10 at? And then how could you lean back a little bit in that space and be more feminine? And also, I think though, probably, I'm not doing this actively in a relationship that I'm trying to kind of flip the dynamic, but yeah, it's just leaning back and saying no to things that don't feel good to you and letting men fail And I think that that was something I sucked at. I could see things, I can see a fail coming 100 years in advance. And I used to say I get future mad. So I'm like, well, I'm not mad about anything that's happened. I'm mad about what is going to happen in the future because I can literally see the future. And I think that, you just have to let it just blow up sometimes. You can't say if you find yourself like constantly like jumping ahead so that you're not future mad or future have your feelings hurt, and you just let it fail, then that's a way to not be the boss, isn't it? Like it really, like I just
Well,
didn't.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I talk about this in the program. And I know, Kim, you might be also newish in module 4. This is all coming for you, where I share, like, and this is where boundaries work comes in as well. But if you have asked your partner to fix the pipes because they're leaking and the pipes aren't getting fixed, it's time to let the pipes blow up and for the flood to happen in your house, because that is going to be on him. And it's so uncomfortable. I mean, obviously, it's like, Anurova, stupid advice you're giving me. What do you mean? But that's how people learn. There has to be consequences to their actions. So I'll give you my example. Once this whole thing with string about getting kids this whole evening routine. If you're a mother, you understand the evening routine is like, I need to get this baby done by 8 p.m. Otherwise, she's going to be overtired. And I'm going to do whatever. So I've talked to String so many times about 7:30 going up, right upstairs, taking a shower, whatever. Well, guess what? He wasn't doing that. I'm like, all right, no problem. I'm out of here. So I'm taking the baby upstairs, and I'm like, if you choose to do so, no problem. But then the toddler is yours. And so I'm upstairs. I'm putting the baby to sleep. I'm good. I'm like in my pajamas in the bedroom. I'm reading a book. He's like coming to me, and I'm like, no. I'm good. I'm done. Yeah. So guess what? Next day, he's like wrapping everything up at 7:30, being like, let's go into the shower. So it doesn't happen perfectly all the time. But I love that you said, Christina, these tools, it's the same thing. That's why we have in the program women who are single and women who are in a relationship. Obviously, the dating part there is different, but it's exactly the same. So, Kim, if you're working on changing your dynamic, first and foremost, it's going to take time, because people don't change, in 10 weeks or whatever. So you're working actively with another person. And what Christina said, I will 100% agree with that. Focus on you. Just focus on you and focus on doing the work and showing up, because this is a rediscovery process and a transformational journey for you. And as you shift and transform, trust me, you will see that he will as well. Or what we always say, working with women in relationships, there are two scenarios. As you shift and transform and lean back and allow space. So many women in relationships with kind of broken polarity, where they are the boss, they just don't allow their men to take charge, because there's no space for that. He would rather let you lead and you be the boss than step up, because stepping up and butting heads with you is a lot harder for him than to just say, sure. That's a lot of men are like, sure, I'm just going to do my thing. And it's not worth for me the argument, because a woman will always win in an emotional battle. They're like, oh my God, this is too much. I'm checking out. Sure. So just allow yourself, Kim, to do the work and to get into your body and process your stuff, right? Because there's a lot, like, we're in this together with the partner. And so you and him are mirroring each other a lot of the time. So once you do your own work, you will see your partner shift and transform. Or the second scenario, you actually realize that the partner that you're with, second scenario, the partner that you're with doesn't have that capacity. And that happens sometimes with women in the program. But most of the time, what I've seen is that actually they see their men shift and transform, and that your partner is going to go there with you. And sometimes he doesn't. And in an unfortunate event, you're going to have to part ways, because you'll realize that's not for me, and I'm not available for that anymore. And you can't meet me where I want to be met, but I'm worthy of my desires. And I want to be held and be safe and be conquered. And I want this. And this, my desire And it's not about you. You're amazing. But my desire is that, and you can't meet me in that, unfortunately. So I'm going to open myself up to something that I want. So I hope, Kim, this answers your question. And you're in the program, so we're supporting you along the way. Okay, next question, Shervin. What about the men that supposedly don't subscribe to? Oh, well, okay, I'll hear your thoughts about that. So Shervin's asking, what about the men that supposedly don't subscribe to the polarity or want women to initiate more? Is this normal?
I mean, it is, but bye, right? Like you decided how you like it. It's your life. It is your body. You get to decide what feels good to you. You're committed to a life that feels good and is fulfilling. That's what you want in your life, right? More than any man, more than a job, right? You want to feel good. You want to be in flow with your life. And you can't change anyone's mind, or like all you can do is show up as yourself, and hope, and that's it. You can't, if they don't subscribe, then they're not going to like you. That's what I think, well, you're not, if you're looking for a woman at this point who you want to plan all the dates and to plan your vacations and to take care of you and mother you, then I'm not going to be a good fit. You're not going to like me, and actually you're going to get frustrated with me. After a date or two, you're going to be like, why is this girl not planning our dates? And it's just going to like fizzle away. We're never even going to need to talk about it, because you're going to want me to, you're going to keep trying to do this, and I'm just going to keep letting it fall on the ground, and then it's not going to go anywhere. So, or that's my experience in the past couple of months, especially. I do see that sometimes, but I just don't pick it up. Like when they push it over, I don't take it. So
yeah, or like when men tell you, I mean, we talk in the group about how to navigate situations when he's like, so what would you do, Christina? Because this is a really cool scenario that I've seen in the group. One woman said, the guy was amazing. He planned the second date, and then he initiates and says, so what are we doing this weekend? And she says, remember that? I think Nadia posted that. And she says, well, I'm not sure. I like museums and parks and things, and it feels really good when actually you plan initiate. And then he's like, "Oh, well, I planned the first 2 dates, and I think the ball is now in your court." So how would you navigate that?
I don't take the ball. I'm like, I really don't. If it's just a couple of dates, I have good boundaries around my vulnerability, and like having a big emotional talk with someone who has just had a few dates with me. I'm not available for that. So like, we're not getting on the phone to have a deep hash out on our third date. I don't want to do that. So if you're going to keep pushing me like that, right? And then I'm going to feel in my body, this has happened to me. I'm going to feel like it feels like a push, like a real, like, well, I planned the first, if I tell you, if I say, I would love it if you did this. And if instead of doing it, you say, that's not fair. I planned 2 dates, your turn. It doesn't feel good. So by that part of the conversation, I've already kind of felt this like pushback. I'm not going to do it. So I honestly, like, I'll just stay in that like feeling space. A lot of the time though, we won't talk for an hour or two. They will, I am in my mind, I just imagine them like going away and thinking this out, right? Like having a little chat with themselves. Like, and a lot of times they'll just come back and they'll be like, would you like to meet for blah, blah, at such and such place? And I'm like, yeah, I would.
So what do you say in that? So hot. Sorry, I think you froze for a moment, but I'm curious now. Maybe I missed it. How would you reply to that specific thing where he says, well, I planned the first 2 dates, now your turn? What would you say to that?
I would say, well, it depends on the dynamic before with that person. Like if I had to be very clear, I would just say, that doesn't feel great to me. sometimes at that point, I do offer something like, that doesn't feel great to me, but I'd love to meet for dinner still. Your turn. Like it's not,
Mm-hmm.
I don't go super aggressive. And I would rather just, this is my tactic because I know that this stuff does happen all the time. I would rather just say less and do less than try to. At that point, there would be an opportunity for me to come in and almost like
Mm-hmm.
manipulate the conversation into like some lecture. At that point, if it gets too much in my head where I'm sitting there planning the whole text conversation, there could be a point where I just don't respond.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Just
Where
like step out.
yeah,
Yeah.
where I'm like, where if it gets to where I feel like I see, if I can feel myself judging this man and thinking, oh,
Mm.
look, he doesn't want to plan the date. I a lot of times I just don't answer. And then maybe that's when 4 hours later or so they'll pop back with planning it. I had that situation happen this week. The guy was like, what do you want to do tonight? And I said, well, we could, I checked with one of the girls in the program at that point that is like my buddy. And I was like, I was like, why do they, like he's planned all these great dates. And then now he's like, what do you want to do tonight? And so you talk to a friend about it, take a minute, get some, like take a step back. Don't always feel like you have to choose or direct it, but you can always just not answer. What if you don't answer? What if you feel pushed and you feel like you're getting into this dynamic where it's like, well, I did X, so you do Y with a
Yeah.
man. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. When you get into this like 50-50 game, some men, like that's what I felt with this man. He was playing the 50-50, like I put in the effort. Why
Yeah.
don't you put in the effort? And then I'm like fast forwarding it and being like, well, when I get pregnant with your child, what are you going to have that conversation with me when I'm nursing your child? Well, our child, but like it's never 50-50 here. So it doesn't work like that. And so
Yeah.
I'm not available for it. I'm not like, and I say, look, as a woman, this is where it's like this initiating gets confusing. Now when we talk about from the male perspective and empathy, a lot of men have, or maybe not a lot, some men have this fear. They might have this fear of like a gold digger or a woman who wants you to do all the work. Like that's a man that I would call an underdeveloped man, emotionally underdeveloped. Like so perhaps he's had that experience, or he wants to play that 50-50 game with you, and you don't. Like that
Right.
doesn't feel good in my body. Like I've never experienced that with string. It's like, so walk away if you're feeling this tit for tat thing. Like what polarity is such a beautiful gift in a relationship or a dating dynamic, because it removes that tit for tat thing. Like that's how you avoid conversations at a dinner table when you're married about, well, I clean the dishes and
Yeah.
now you cook and then I'll do this, but what about, have you done that? And you start keeping score of what he's done. What I like, no, I don't want to live like that. So
Yeah.
start this right in the beginning. And Lena says, and if they walk away, is it their loss? Well, pretty much, yeah. Like, don't engage, and then guess what? He's actually gonna feel that you're not engaged. He's like, what's happening? Did I say something? And you say, well, you know what? It didn't really feel good when we started playing this game of like you pushing me to do something. Like what feels good in my body is when I feel you communicate based on feelings. Like I feel excited when you ask me out on a date. I feel, yeah. And then you're sometimes I say, I recommend, cook dinner for you, man. You don't have to plan and arrange and everything, but if you are into your dating dynamic a little bit more, like you can cook dinner for him. You could do little things, but let him lead and let you say, I don't pick up the ball. I love it. Don't pick up
Yeah.
the ball,
Yeah.
it's
Don't
like
do
your
it.
choice.
What
Yeah.
happens if you just, if you feel that energy of him shoving it back to you, don't take it. Like don't argue with him. But also like something that I'm still working on it, but I think is really important, especially for someone who's been married before and is dating with like a lot of man history, It's like, give these guys chances. Like, so what? You had a little bit of like a friction over the
Mm-hmm.
date. And then there was like a 4 or 5 hour or maybe a day. He went away and he thought about it and he thought, well, gosh, maybe I would maybe who cares who picks the restaurant out? I was going to pay anyways.
Yeah.
Why am I being like that? And he comes back and he asks you for a date. Go on the date. That man is vulnerable. He had a weird moment with you and he came back. Like, he's a good guy. Give him a chance. So like, that's your vulnerability in that moment, is not to shut down and like, well, he's not masculine, I'm done with him, unmatching.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't plan the
Mm-hmm.
date. Just like give it some time, give it some space, give him some, like, a little bit of time to think about it and like adjust to you. you know
Yeah, or maybe he has his men group where he's like,
yeah.
I'm dating this woman. This
Yeah.
actually happens. Like, I'm dating this woman, and this happened, and his buddies are like, "What the hell, man? Like,
Go
get
on
around
the
on a date." He's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. Hey Nadia, I picked up a
date.
restaurant. Let's go." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that happens a lot too. Yeah, I like that where you give them the space to, because we do process things and we talk about it in the program or with girlfriends. Yeah. Yeah, awesome. All right, so we have three more questions, and then we're going to wrap up. So the first one is from Andrea. She says, I had a very bad breakup a decade ago, someone who I hope to have a future with. He cheated on me and is now married. My ex and I are still amicable somehow. I've healed somewhat from that experience, but I'm also not as optimistic about love as before. I haven't dated a lot since the breakup. What would be my first step to build my confidence? To follow up, sorry if my question is too much info. Not too much info, Andrea. All good. Good question, Christina. I know maybe you're not like,
I mean,
how would you?
I think I do have an answer for this, because I just
Okay.
think, like, how, besides doing you're going to you do the flow, you do the program, you take some time, all those things, but like, how do you really heal from relationship? You heal in relationship. So how can you repair your view of men, new experiences with good men, right? Like, you can't sit around reading books and heal your relationship with men. You have to go be around some men, some good men, and so I think, like, you gotta try again, and you might not feel like as optimistic about love as you did, a decade ago. You're also a different person, and give yourself, like, also, maybe, I don't know if this is true, but like, you might not, you're not ever going to feel the same way you did a decade ago about a different man, right? You're a different person now. These are different people. So I think, like, take some expectations off yourself too, and just like try to give yourself better experiences with men, which is actually like half of my goal right now, just to feel
Well,
good.
100% agree with you. But what I would add here, Christina, is that you can't just flip a switch and go and have great experiences with men. You have to get there, and your belief system, like Andrea, you ask, first of all, what I noticed when I read your question was, you start, so as a coach, I always look for language, and I always read into what women are saying, and the way you phrase this. You started with, I had a very bad breakup a decade ago. So when I heard a decade ago, I'm like, shit, that's 10 years.
Yeah.
Something that happened 10 years ago is still in your system and is affecting how you're living your life and your dating reality with men, which, look, I completely understand. There are people who are walking with that their whole life, right? So, and Andrea, it seems like you're not in the program, are you? Are you a client? It seems like you're not, but let me know in the chat box. So that situation, think about it, she's not, that situation is affecting, like you said, how can I be optimistic about love? Well, first of all, we need to excavate that, look into that, feel through that, and release that. That weight that you're carrying is in your body and in your system that needs to be released. And how I know how to release it, for example, and what's worked for many women is in an embodied way. You know, people talk about it forever. Like Christina said, she could write a book about childhood trauma. Like, we understand what happened, and you realize, Andrea, that that is what's affecting it. And that was 10 years ago. So I invite you to step into the possibility where this story does not have to influence your love life. So I completely agree with Christina. You need to have different experiences with men, great experience, but how you get there is actually by releasing that story from your system and from your body, changing your beliefs about them. Because, you know, chances are, and I think that would be true maybe for you, is that he cheated on me and now is married. Like, the way you phrase that, that's still in your body, you know, and that is your story that you're carrying into your dynamics with men. Perhaps you have a belief that men are cheaters. I can't trust men because 10 years ago I was betrayed, and that's the story. So I would really recommend getting rid of that story and releasing that from your body. And this is exactly what we're doing in the program and what we're working with. So if you're interested, Andrea, I really recommend that, you know, you jump on a discovery call with us and see if the program is the right fit, and come and join us and we can work through that. And in about 10 weeks or so, well, this is the minimum amount of time, you can release that and have an amazing dating experience with men. So go and do that. That's what I would recommend. But hopefully, I hope this makes sense, and I hope this is helpful. And you'll be able on the discovery call to go deeper. Yeah, change the story. Don't let this be, you know, the story anymore. Awesome. So apply for a discovery call. Thank you. Okay, so 2 more questions. Alexandra is asking, how did you prepare for dates when you still weren't comfortable going on dates? I am having a harder and harder time getting out there.
Well, I think it's just like what the last question, like everything we just said was like, honestly, I think then you have, if you take the journey, right, and you remove from dating, if you take off of dating, okay, I'm dating with like a mission to vet these men and see, you know, pick through the pile like their husband factory. If you take that off of it and you're like, dating is to experience men and to do some healing, and dating's going to be triggering, then when you start to feel those feelings of like really intense discomfort, or I used to feel a lot of fear when I was swiping. So as soon as I started swiping, I could feel like all this fear come up in my body. Or if a man would come talk to me, I immediately felt afraid. And then I would have to try to repress that fear to kind of work through and get past it, right? I have to push it down. So, but like in an embodiment practice, you'd actually let that come up. So you go into your flow and you take that feeling of, I think you said, you know, you're not comfortable, and you like move as the feeling of not being comfortable. And then what's under that and what comes next. And then every date where you don't feel comfortable is like a new opportunity for you to move through that emotion, because you feeling nervous about going on a date is just like, this is my experience when I don't feel like going on a date, or if I'm nervous about it, it doesn't have anything to do with the stranger that I have never met. It doesn't. He is a nice man who wants to buy me a taco. He is not nothing. There's nothing, you know, logically, that's what I think that helps, that a lot of us are like super logical beings. I can tell you that it doesn't make any sense for me to feel uncomfortable, right? Why would it make me feel bad or uncomfortable for a nice man to take me for a taco? And so I think, yeah, it's just, I did have to do a lot of work. It took me I did a lot of work to get from like the day I enrolled in Claim to like sitting on this call, which seems crazy to me. And like telling people that I go on dates and I'm only worried about, do I want to go on a second date with you? And so I think that it just has to be an opportunity to really go into yourself, because it's super uncomfortable to go on dates, especially if you've had something really traumatic happen in a relationship. You got to bring it all up, you know, on sometimes for before every date. Before every date is like a way to go into a deep flow where you're like, I can't go on the date till 8 because I'm going to have to flow before. Right?
Yeah, but how amazing that you now have a tool,
Yeah.
right? So I think part of why a lot of women are just so stuck and confused and burnt out and like feel like they're broken because, oh my God, like, and you don't want to bring that into a day. Like that's not going to go anywhere. So yeah, I just really, and I think, Christina, what you're reminding me of as you're talking is, date, like what I love what you said is, and that's why I started this program, is men are our mirrors. Your dating experience is a mirror. And what you mentioned in the beginning, like I'm so good at managing people and bossing things around and doing
Yeah.
my own business. But when it comes to men, oh my God, I'm just this little girl who can't say no and everything comes up and it's like, so I got really curious about that, and I understand why now, because when you really think about that, our dynamics with men and our relationship with the men is the next most vulnerable and intimate dynamic pretty much after what you've had with your parents, if you really consider that. And that dynamic, like parents is charged, like we talked about childhood trauma, stuff like that, which I have a lot of that too. But men are our mirrors and our teachers and are constantly showing us what's inside of us, and what we need to work with. That's why if you're attracting emotionally unavailable men, we got to look at how you yourself are emotionally unavailable. So, that's why the dating brings up so much of your own stuff. And that's why, so how do you prepare? Well, you deal with your own stuff first. And this is deep work, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. So yeah, I think this is a great answer, Christina. Thank you. Deal with your own stuff and show up on dates, because yes, this has nothing to do with that man, and you can self-sabotage. And one thing I'm going to mention here is that in the program, a lot of them are asking, well, I'm just not excited to date, I don't want to date. I'm like, don't. Like, it's better to not date than date from this place of like complete discomfort and exhaustion. Like, take a break and do your work, get back into this. You want to be in the space where Christina's at now, right? You want to be excited about dating. You want to come on a date and be like, hello, I'm here, how are you doing, let's laugh out loud. And the only thing I want to think about is like, do I want to go on the next date with you or not? That's it. Not about all of your stuff coming out, but you need to do that work first so you can get there. And sometimes it takes time. So, all right, awesome. Last question. It's been, we're running like an hour and a half, more than an hour and a half. Cara, by the way, says, I think Cara is in the program. Love your vibe, Christina. Thanks for the wisdom and your feminine strength. You're truly wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree. Thank you. Okay, last question is from Thea, and I know Thea is in the program as well. So, question about the first no. I definitely want to steer clear of asking where is this going right out of the gate. But I'm also so not into going on dates with guys who are in relationships already with other women. Lately, I've come across a ton of guys who claim to be practicing ethical non-monogamy. Ooh, I love where this is going. It doesn't feel too ethical to me, though, because I never wouldn't have gone out with them in the first place if I had known they were already committed to someone else. Once they do finally tell me, it feels like they were kind of being sneaky about it and hoping I'd be drawn in by them. Any suggestions for how to set that boundary gracefully from the beginning, that I'm not available for dating someone who's already in a relationship without doing the where is this going thing?
Well, I think this is a really interesting question because this has never happened to me. I've never, I see people all the time, or they like me or whatever on an app, and they say they're E&M, or they say very clearly, my wife dates other, it's in their profile, and I don't swipe on them. I'm not into that. But if you're running into it where you live, I would imagine then it's more it's a different situation, maybe than where I live in the South, in the United States. So, maybe, I don't know. This is nothing to do with claim. This feels like a logistical issue, but you could put like it somewhere at the bottom of your profile or something, I'm not open to E&M or something, some people do things like that. But that's never happened to me. I've never, I can't speak to that specifically. I don't know if it's happened to other women in the chat, but no one's ever hidden that from me before. If they have told, that's something a man has told me right away. Most people that practice that, in my experience, are like looking for someone who's seriously also open to that. So I've never had anybody sneak that up on me. But it could be where you live.
Yeah, she's saying she's in New York City. Okay, and what is IRL?
In real life.
It's
usually men in real life. You meet men in real life and they don't tell you that they're E&M and you want to, I mean, that doesn't feel like, I don't know. Cause I don't know the dating scene or where you're meeting these guys, but it doesn't seem terrible to me to be like, I'm not into E&M or whatever. Like if I felt like that was a constant problem, I might let people know. Like, I'm not available for that. But.
Yeah. And I think, when I asked him, so I think there's two things here. I always look at what's at the surface and what's deeper as a coach, right? So at the surface, there's definitely, like you're seeing this happening and it's like what you can do about it. So it's a boundary for you, and that's a no. And I agree with Christina. A lot of men who actively, openly practice that, or like polyamory, open relationship, whatever the term is, right? They're actually pretty open about it. But if you meet men in real life, I feel like that's also not something that they would tell you right away. It's like, hi, you're attractive. Can I get your number? And by the way, I am practicing polyamory if you're into it. Like, that's weird. So that might come in maybe on a date. And if it comes out, and you might feel like this is sneaky, but it might not actually be. I mean, unless he's actively hiding it, then that's a bit weird. But even when that happens, you're like, thanks, no, I'm out of here. So it's a matter of practicing your boundary, and also I think understanding that might come out in your first date, or maybe even your second one, and that's okay. Like, I always say there's a few bad apples out there, and you're going to experience men. Even if you're dating reality and your belief system is amazing about men, like, you're going to experience some underdeveloped men, who don't like, who just want either sex or who want to do whatever, so that's on the surface. But again, as a coach, I look for what's deeper here. And Thea, I know you're in the program. I would really recommend that you bring this up in the Facebook group, and also bring it up on the group coaching calls with us, so we can chat about it and actually coach through it. And in the program, if you're not in the module 2 yet, I know I think joined last month or something, there's definitely, like, if you see a pattern in your dating life with men, because you're saying, lately I've come across a ton of guys who claim to be practicing ethical non-monogamy. Like, to me, that's a little bit strange and a signal that something's happening. Because, normally women don't meet a ton of men who actively practice. Like, this thing is a bit underground, and it's a bit, so that tells me, if you're saying a ton of men, that tells me that there's something inside of you. Like, how might you be mirroring that? Because these men are not available, or I mean, hang on, they are available, but they are available, but they're actually not there with another woman, and you don't want that. So I would definitely look deeper and see what is a belief here that you might have. So that's all module 2 worksheet work. And if you have more questions about that, ask me in the Facebook group, tag me. But there's definitely a belief there that's, you've got to look at why you're attracting these men that, present to you something that you don't. My sense is that you might be mirroring emotional unavailability. Like, why are you scared of attracting men who are available? What is the defense mechanism that's playing in your dating dynamic with men? Because you are attracting men who you don't want. So something in you is protecting you. that's your defense, because if they're coming to you and you're not available, you're like, nope, 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 not for me. So, oh, so you're saying probably partly because I used to think I wanted something polyamorous, but no longer. Okay. Well, yeah, for sure. So I would sit with that, Thea, and see what's at the bottom of that, and like reframe that and flow through that. Embodiment is key here, right? So you gotta welcome the discomfort, and then through your practice and your flow, and we can do it on a group call. You got to feel into that strong boundary, like I'm available for a man who is open and available for me. Yeah, great. All righty, we're done. Thanks so much. Okay, so first I want to thank Christina. This has been a lot, and this has been awesome. So thanks so much, Christina, for your time. I had a great time, and obviously this conversation has been so amazing because you are on the front lines and I'm not. But obviously I know how it feels because I've been there. So thank you, Christina. This has been amazing. Thanks for all the support that you're doing, like in the program. You're always commenting. You're always there. I know you're also. Well, I don't know. Did you want to disclose that, FACC, or maybe not?
I'm doing that embodiment training, coaching training. I started that a couple of months ago. So yeah, I wanted more embodiment. I feel like that, that's the most important part of the course. Like that's the most important part of Claimed. Is just like drop into yourself. How does it feel to you? What's going on? And then also actually the other women are amazing because when you said, if she posted that in the Facebook group and then a whole bunch of women said what I said, we're like, that's never happened to me one time. Right? Like if a whole bunch of women said that, and then women that live in New York are like, that doesn't happen to me. Then you have all these women who are coming at dating, like talking about men in a positive way. And then you're getting like a really healthy reframing. So I think that, it's like, the Facebook group is kind of awesome for that.
Yeah, that's why I love it, because when you enter the program, you're surrounded by women who are either have already transformed their belief system about men and have that you're basically up leveling, you're investing yourself to up level, to be surrounded by women like me, by women like Christina. And even if you're not there yet, you're on the way. And it's almost, I always feel like we lift, there's a lift, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. You gotta be in the room with women who are like, she believes all men are amazing and she's not looking for red flags and her reality is different. So like, how can I get close to that? One way is to join us in the program if you're not there yet. So apply for a discovery call and talk with Barbara. She's a client as well and has an amazing experience, is living with a man in New York City, her man that she found through the program. So go to claim.com/apply for a discovery call and see if it's the right fit for you. And Christina and I will see you on the other side. And for all the women in the program already, we'll see you in the group and on the group coaching calls. Yeah, thanks so much, Christina. You have a great night, and we shall talk soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.